In today's feature interview, a chat with world-class personal trainer and behavioral change specialist Matt Lane about key strategies for managing the mindset and progress of his clients and how they can easily be applied for anyone who wishes to manage themselves and their own mindset, helping them achieve consistency in their use of law of attraction manifesting methods or any other vehicle they choose for making massive improvements in their life. You definitely don't want to miss this one. This is the law of attraction like you've never heard it before. Hey everyone, Andrew here, otherwise known as that guy who wrote the last law of attraction book you'll ever need to read. And I am coming at you today with a really special interview. And, this person is a friend of mine, but you don't get on this channel just by being a friend of mine. You get on this channel because you have something highly valuable to share. And I'll go into the story about that. But first, I guess to let you know who we're chatting with, Matt Lane is, he's a personal trainer and he's a behavioral change specialist. And we'll talk about what that means. But I'll just say that this dude is awesome. That's a good way to put it. He's the founder of Matt Lane Fitness and the creator of the 30-day full body group challenge and probably a bunch of other things that we're not getting credit for right away, but we'll get there. So Matt Lane, thank you so much for being here, my friend, and welcome to my YouTube channel.
I appreciate it, man. I've been, and you know this, I've been watching you in your little journey here of 100 days, 101 days, and I'm happy for you. I've seen the growth and I appreciate it, but thank you for all the kind words, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, man. Well, seriously, it's my honor and privilege and pleasure to have you on. And I guess to kind of let people know what's going on here, just the way you watch me, I watch you. I love the stuff you're doing. And I always love when, the YouTube algorithm is a really funny thing and it pops in, you never know what's going to throw in front of you. And it threw one of your recent videos in front where, you and Holden Hardman, who you guys have a history together, you did a reaction video of this show. And I think I get the title right, like from fit to fat to fit, or fit to fat to fit again, right?
You got it.
And obviously, anyone that doesn't know you yet doesn't really understand your passion, because look, you right now, you're laid back and you're chill. But this thing sets you off, and I'll make sure to link the video in the description here so people can kind of check out what kind of prompted this.
Yeah.
It was very interesting to watch it because it was you being a personal trainer yourself,
Yeah.
Playing Monday morning quarterback and critiquing a personal trainer that went on television. And basically she gained weight to lose weight with her client. And, it's TV. So they're going to throw in drama. They're going to throw in hiccups and this and that. But there are certain things that really rubbed you the wrong way. And, not to kick someone who's not here to defend themselves, just you didn't agree with it. And the thing that I found really cool that inspired me to invite you on was that the reasons you gave for critiquing the way this personal trainer handled stuff, it's basically you kind of inadvertently put your own brilliance on display in terms of your behavioral change specialty, in terms of your understanding of human psychology, and really in terms of how you manage your clients. And I had this, I don't know if it was an epiphany or just a reminder of something I already knew, but I'm like, what Matt's talking about right here, this is basically applicable to anyone managing themselves in any situation, whether it's a fitness journey or a nutrition journey or law of attraction manifestation methods or any venue where you're trying to improve your life in some way, shape, or form. So I kind of came to you and said, let's talk about some of the points that you made to bring them in front of my audience so that they can use them to their benefit. That's my big sum up. As I say that, did I miss anything in terms of what we're expecting?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. And as I was telling Andrew before I hopped on here, like he hasn't asked me these questions beforehand because I want to be blindsided by it, because all of what I said in that video makes total sense. It's sort of it's sort of second nature to people. That's my second nature. It's just how I am as a trainer. But shout out to Fallon, that trainer. If you see this video, no shade, girl, no shade. I was not there. I was not in your shoes. So who am I to say? But from what I saw and what was presented to me, yes, I probably would have done things differently without a doubt.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that up, props to Fallon, because one thing she was not in control of was how the producers are going to edit her. For all we know, she did like things 100% like perfect in certain scenarios, and you would never see it and you wouldn't know, because when you do things right, it doesn't create drama for TV. So of course they're going to spotlight other things.
Well, and point blank, because my approach to a lot of people is very boring. The way
Mm,
she approached it, that is I think the stereotypical way and what most people think it is. And Holden in the video actually said that. He's like, what she's doing and saying, this is what I already understand. So no shade to her at all, but yeah.
yeah. And by the way, you kind of brought in your own point right now, and I think it's really important. You said what you do is boring. And I think that's really important, again, in the context of fitness, or, it's my channel of attraction. When people are doing methods, I don't think my methods are boring, and I don't think the process is boring, but I do think it's way simpler. And I think boring
Yeah.
and simple can kind of overlap in certain ways. I think there is a value and a magic to embracing the
Absolutely.
boring or the mundane or the simple or there's no moment in here where a producer would be able to latch on and make it a drama thing because things are going so smoothly.
Yeah, no. And it like, when I say boring, it's boring in the eyes of most people that don't understand the world that I'm in, the
Mm,
training aspect, the fitness aspect. From an outsider looking in, for me to say focus on consistency rather than intensity, well, screw that, man. That's not running up a mountain in the sun, and that's not going to shed the pounds off. Like, that's intensity is what we encourage in the mainstream. However, for some reason, consistency seems to be talked about the least. And I just don't understand that. So to most people, it's not as sexy as running up the hill, sweating your butt off. When you talk about, the mental game of what consistency really is and what it really brings. So I think that's what I meant when I said that.
and I'm glad you brought up that point, because one thing I'm a huge proponent of when I'm guiding people from a law of attraction standpoint is, listen, if you want to do 2 hours of this gratitude thing, have at it. But understand, most people don't have the patience or the endurance or the time in their schedule for it. And 5 minutes, I mean, for working out, it's one thing, but just from a manifestational method standpoint, from my experience, 5 minutes is enough. So why ramp up the intensity to a point where you get frustrated and you quit and before you can even get somewhere, versus saying, I'm gonna maybe I'll bring up the intensity at some point, but for now I'm worried about consistency. I'm worried about staying in a comfort zone where I can maintain that level of consistency, where I can keep the momentum going in that way. Because ironically, intensity, in my view, comes from the consistency and comes from the momentum that naturally builds.
Well, if you don't have any consistency, then what is the point of your one-time intensity? Yeah, I mean, no one has ever accomplished anything great by doing it once, most of the time. I mean, when we're talking about, especially when we're talking about health and fitness, like, this is not an overnight process. Like, you didn't get to the shape that you're in overnight. So why would you get into the shape that you want to overnight? I just, it is crazy important the way you view it and approach it for the goals that you want.
Yeah. And with that in mind, when you're going to be working with your clients, what is the mental game approach that you have to ensuring that they enter something that they can be consistent in? What is your, I guess, ground zero or foundational point when you're leading them into the process in the beginning?
So I always ask the question of, what is your why and why? So, I mean, and that's not brand new. I didn't come up with that. That's a very basic thing in psychology of, basically what is your true motivator? And I can tell, speaking with someone, what maybe their true why actually is, even if they're telling me something else. So if they say, like, I just want to get healthy and lose a few pounds. To me, I'm not saying that that's not a good why. At least you're able to put your finger on it. But someone that tells me, I had a heart attack 6 months ago, and I was told that, I had a 80% chance of dying when I went into this surgery, and I came out and I actually survived, and I realized I had to change things. I'm not saying that it has to be that dramatic, but one person that says that compared to somebody else that wants to lose a few pounds, it's night and day of their intentions and what they're doing. There's something behind their words and the reason they're speaking to me. It's just different. I'm not saying I'm going to turn the person away that says, I just want to lose a few pounds. I don't think you have to have it all figured out, but you have to have some sort of intention, because if you go about it haphazardly, if you go about it with sort of a laissez-faire, those are the results you're going to get. So trying to figure out what their real intentions are, trying to really dig down to, why do they really want to do this? And then also, how do they want to do this? If I can establish what they're trying to accomplish, what did they enjoy? Have they done anything in the past that they've truly enjoyed? Or, is there certain ways that it at least sucks less for them? Because some people just truly do not enjoy the physical struggle that is training. So really honestly digging down and trying to figure out their core why. That's number one. And I've turned people away before that have said, like, I want to be stage ready and I want to do competitions. I have nothing against it. I did it once. I prepared for it, and it's just not my realm and where I want to go. So I have turned people away. I've pointed them to the direction of, they're just in a different season. I've pointed them in the direction of people that they should try that with. So
I love that. And, even again, from the standpoint of a self-management standpoint, people will sometimes, they'll throw a why out there because they read it in a book or something like that. But maybe it's a why that's a reflection of social programming, what they hear on TV, something like that. And they're not getting to the core. When if they even went just one level deeper, I mean, people can go 3 or 4 level deeper if they want, but if they can even just go one level deeper, they might find something inside themselves that really motivates them to do that first week. And then they're off to the races, because then they know what it feels like. They've told their inner psychology, or from the way I describe it, their ego, that it's safe to do this, and they're moving forward in that direction.
Yep. 1,000%. I mean, it's, if you, as a trainer, if you don't have the ability to sort of dig in and get to know that person and their intentions, you can't effectively do your job. And I don't feel right charging someone if I can't deliver, what they're wanting, if that makes sense.
Makes perfect sense. And anyone that knows Matt Lane knows he's you were all about integrity and results, which I love. And by the way, the reason I can say that is even in just the answer that you gave before this, not only are you talking about them finding their why, but you also said, how are you going to do this? Are you going to enjoy it? And the one, because I took notes on the video before having this conversation, the way you phrased it in your reaction to that reaction video was, if you don't like to lift weights, don't lift weights. If you don't like to do cardio, don't do cardio. Do the thing that you like that's going to get you there, because if you hate something, you're never going to have enough consistency or enough care with which to keep up with it. Maybe you can drag it on for a day or even a week or even a month. Maybe you could even pull teeth for a month and do it. Eventually, you're going to lose your momentum and your bandwidth if you don't actually enjoy the process.
1,000%. And again, I speak, everyone that I work with, if they ask a question of what should I do, how should I do, my question, me giving you the answer is not serving you. Me helping you find your answer is always the best answer. And there is not a blanket answer for everyone. There is not a one size fits all. There's science, and there are a lot of things that fit and make things happen from a physiological standpoint. But the approach, there's so many ways to the approach. And I have met people and worked with people that the workout was the last part we got to. I mean, focusing on the mental game and not mentally beating themselves up for whatever reason, that was the focus. Then we started focusing on nutrition. Then it was training and recovery. If your mental fitness isn't square, none of the rest matters. I truly believe that if your mental fitness isn't where it should be, or at least you're not working on it, the rest of it, the nutrition, the training, let's lift weights, let's do the running, all that, none of that matters.
Yeah, I love that. And, again, perfect parallel, whether you're working out or you're doing law of attraction exercises. So with that in mind, what if someone says, okay, Matt, I'm with you, I want to get myself a little more mentally fit, are there any things you would suggest they might do, might look into, might explore in order to get themselves at a higher mental or emotional fitness level?
What's interesting is the result in how I train people is a result in how I've evolved myself. I will never speak to something I haven't experienced or gone through authoritatively. Now, when I say that, I've never been overweight, and I've told my clients, I have never been overweight. So for me to judge how you are feeling, it's not right, because I haven't been in your shoes. But self-awareness is a big thing that I find with the clients that I work with. A lot of people are very unaware of their own thoughts. So I think that if you can get outside of yourself for a second and ask yourself, why are you having the thought that you're having, rather than just focusing on the actual thought, you really teach yourself a lot. And, the more education you have on yourself, the more you can start to work on yourself in areas that you want to become better in. So I believe that self-awareness is so huge and something that I didn't have for a long time. And that's what pops in my head immediately, is self-awareness.
And what I'm hearing even in your answer is the key to that self-awareness is patience with oneself,
Oh
because
my gosh.
in the moment, it feels like you're dragging your feet. It feels like you're moving at a snail's pace. But by taking that time out and observing yourself and being patient and non-judgmental, you're giving yourself the space to kind of, grow those new emotional muscles,
Yep.
where over time you become more naturally inclined to just observe yourself without having to force it or having to put in effort. And
Correct.
you're also growing the muscle of being patient with yourself.
I have always said that, the strongest guy in the corner of the gym deadlifting 800 pounds, that's dope, man. Like, respect. But I'm more interested in the person in the corner of the room that's been coming for 5 years, that's consistently showing up. To me, that's true strength. Can you endure? And the process of patience ultimately leads to mental fitness. When you really, I don't like the word force, when you really put yourself to patience, and when no one is forcing you to come back, when you are the one that is coming back day after day after day and getting better slowly, that builds so much. The word comes to me, wisdom. I think wisdom, and I mean, patience, man. Patience has changed me. Patience has changed me. So without a doubt, yeah. I mean, I think that there's so many different ways you can approach mental fitness, but self-awareness and patience, without a doubt, that's usually the start. And with my training, the first week, I'm extremely intentional with whatever walk of life you are. You could be an ex-athlete, or you can be somebody that's never even smelled a weight. Why would you smell a weight? Well, it's quite fun. I mean, but I always underdo it on the first week with them. It's extremely intentional. And I've had people, and I wait for it now. I wait for them to come to me and be like, is this seriously what I paid for? Are you serious? Like 10 push-ups? Seriously? The point of that is, can you do 7 days in a row that is not crazy intense? Because just 7 days, some people can't pull off. I'm seriously. So really changing that perspective and learning that patience.
Wow, I love that. And I love the perspective. Again, I'm applying this to someone who's going to be managing themselves, is get to a point where you're antsy about doing more for yourself rather than doing so much and then wondering if you could repeat that the next day. Really managing your mentality and your mindset in the complete opposite direction, where you're almost begging yourself, or in your case, begging your personal trainer, come on, let's unleash this thing and let's make this happen.
Yep. Well, I always look at intensity when you're in a group setting. For anybody that's like, I'm gonna go super hard, or I'm gonna throw extra weight on, or whatever. Why? Like, if it's a part of your programming, then sure. And I don't want to demonize intensity. You have to turn the dial up, without a doubt. There has to be intensity, but a lot of people use intensity because people are around them watching, or they think people are around them watching, and they need to show out for some reason. But I mean, the concept of linear progression at the start, that's a very common thing. When you just slowly, incrementally increase the volume of your training, that's how you truly get strong when you start out. Like, you take it really, really slow.
Yeah.
That's huge.
And again, like a parallel here, working out, fitness, law of attraction, manifestation methods, I found in the work I do, I think people sometimes they'll read my book or they'll read someone else's book and they'll finally understand the power of the law of attraction, or the power of whatever thing that they're going to be going into. And now they're like, oh my God, it's been 3 decades of my life already. I haven't done this. I need to make up for lost time. And I think that's part of the problem, where people try to do too much too soon just because they are in a rush to get those reps in, whether it's real workout reps or vibrational reps. They're in a rush, not realizing if they go the slow and the steady route, not realizing it, again, from a manifestational standpoint, 5 minutes is going to get them what they want versus 10 push-ups getting them on the way to where they want to be.
Yep. Yeah. And I mean, I think with with LOA, I think with fitness, I think with, I mean, what we're talking about here is it's very, I think, universal to anything that you're trying to have success in. It's the approach and what you're trying to succeed at. I always make the correlation of think of anything you've succeeded at in your life. How'd you succeed at it? Like you kept coming back for it, especially if you failed at it, you kept coming back. And I've found that failure is the best gift you can give yourself, because if you aren't failing, you aren't learning. Like failure means, okay, I have a lesson to learn, but now I can come back and I can conquer that. And I've found that failure can really shake people, and especially people that I work with. I spoke to one of my clients today that they had an injury not long ago and they couldn't work their lower body. But I was telling them it's all good. Like we can work on many other areas of fitness. There's so many different areas. So don't hyper focus on one area that you don't have control over right now. I mean, you can't, if you can't control that area, then what you do have control over, focus on that. I kind of went off on a tangent there, but yeah.
No, you see, it's so funny. You're saying this right now. I'm thinking, oh my God, am I gonna have to like graphically impose the lesson and the parallel from law of attraction? Because when you don't have control of one area, that means okay, focus on the stuff that you're really thriving in, focus your energy and intention and gratitude in that direction. Again, I love the parallels here. They come into play so powerfully. And here's another interesting thing here, and I've been meaning to ask you about this. One thing that kind of put you regarding Fallon's approach on that TV reaction was she mentioned how like when she was gaining the weight again, she was having donuts which she had previously given up. And it bothered, even your reaction right there, it bothered you, the idea that she sacrificed and gave up those donuts as if that was a requirement. But I guess I turn over to you, like what was about the way she said that, or what she said, that really got you so upset with the way her approach was?
The biggest problem so first of all, like if that's what Fallon wants to do, if that's what she enjoys, then right on, do it. My problem was she said, trainers don't eat this way. That doesn't make it makes no sense. It makes no sense. I mean, the only thing I can deduce from that is that as a trainer, I have to change myself and how I do things because other people are watching, which doesn't make any sense. I mean, as a trainer, I mean, you do have to look the part and all that. I'm not saying like, be gluttonous, but flexible nutrition, that's ultimately what I encourage. And that's, 80%, quote unquote healthy things, or the good things, the things that actually make you feel good. And then 20% do whatever the hell you want, because that's what you're going to stick to. So for me, in that moment, when she said trainers don't eat this way, it sets a precedent for the person that's watching that if you want to be like me, you have to act like me. And I don't like that blanket statement of this is how trainers eat. Because I don't.
Yeah. Because the thing is, I'm a proponent of, again, we'll put this in law of attraction, positive thoughts versus negative thoughts. It's a thing where overall your thought patterns are so healthy where you should not judge yourself for a negative thought or a donut.
Correct.
You shouldn't feel like those things happen. You will crave a donut, or you will have a bad day, or something will happen.
Correct.
And it's okay, because your overall fitness, whether it's physical fitness, mental fitness, vibrational fitness, overall, because you're focusing on that in such a healthy and consistent way, correct, it outshines or overpowers whatever negativity might be in place from that.
Well, and that goes back to the consistency aspect of, let's just say that, and I've had this, I was on a call 2 weeks ago with some clients, and one client said, like, I screwed up. I had a few drinks, and then I actually had too many drinks. And then like, they actually started spelling it out. Like at first they're like, I had a few drinks. And they're like, no, I got hammered. Like I got hammered drunk. And I always think right then, as a trainer, I never want to be like, you shouldn't do that. You shouldn't drink. That's the last thing you should do as a trainer. You need to ask the question of like, all right, gotcha. So like, do you know why that was? Like, did you have stressors, or like, were you wanting to do that? And of course we shouldn't drink alcohol. Of course we should only drink water, and we should only eat broccoli and all that crap, but that's not logical. So if that client can come back and know why they did drink the alcohol, were they coping? Were they numbing pain? That's important, because then you can figure out how to work on it. If you are if you are ignorant to why you're doing it, then that's when you have a real problem.
Yeah. And this, by the way, this all cascades everywhere we thought it would be, because even a couple minutes ago, we were talking about self-awareness.
Yep.
And now we're back on self-awareness from a different vantage point.
Correct.
It's all connected. It all works that way.
Yep.
I love it. Awesome. So one other piece here, and again, one thing that happened on the show, again, producers pumped up the drama, and
Correct.
the contestant was only more than happy to help them. Unfortunately, he, in the middle of his weight loss journey, he actually gained weight.
Yeah.
And one point that you made was, like, you said, you don't just lose weight. You'll lose, and I might be putting your words in your mouth here, so, feel free to correct me where I go off, but you'll lose, then you'll gain, then you'll plateau. Like, it's kind of like an oscillation. And I imagine, here's where I'm definitely putting words in your mouth, but it's almost like a mastery curve where over time, the graph going up and down, it's still going to trend in the direction that you want if you're staying consistent. But when you really zone in really close, again, positive thoughts versus negative thoughts, positive experiences, negative experiences, your vibration or your fitness, you should expect ups and downs and within the middle of it without judging yourself or being too harsh, because it's the harshness that's going to get you in that negative pattern even more so.
Yep. 1,000%. So I always use the term peaks and valleys. There are peaks and valleys in our life, and there are peaks and valleys on the scale. There are peaks and valleys in the photos, the progress photos. Weight, and I'm going to speak to weight loss specifically because I think a lot of people can contextualize that, but you did not gain weight in a straight line. You did not just weigh 180 pounds and then it was 200, then it was 220, then it was 250, or go even smaller. You didn't weigh 180 and then 185, 190. Like, it didn't work like that. You probably weren't weighing yourself, but it didn't work like that. You weighed more one day, you weighed less one day, you weighed probably the same the previous day.
The dog agrees.
Yes, right.
The dog's on board.
So I'll speak to weight loss because I think people can contextualize that very easily. You can see it. It's data. I don't think that's the best way to look at your progress, but we'll go there. So you never gain weight in a straight line. You weren't 180 pounds one day, 185, 190 the next day. Like, you didn't just gain on an upward trajectory. You were probably 185 one day, 185 the next day. You might have dropped down 2 pounds. You probably ate the following day. And the point is that it's peaks and valleys. You're right that, yes, you gained weight. So overall, that trajectory was going up. But if you zoom in and look really closely, it was up, down, to the side, up, down, 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 up. And it's the same concept with progress, with any progress.
The message that I got from you is this is to be expected, and it's not something that you want to judge yourself for.
Not only is it to be expected, but it should be that way. Can you imagine being 300 pounds and then, okay, I want to work on my weight loss, and then you just constantly lose weight, there would be a lot of health risks if that were the case. Our body should not adapt in a straight line down or up. So I don't think it's even necessary of like, you should expect this. That's how it's supposed to be. Mm-hmm. So I think when you can change that perspective of realizing from a health standpoint, you don't need to lose a crazy amount of weight super fast because it's not good for you. It's the same concept. It's the same concept.
Now, where I would say this relates to the law of attraction is it is healthy to go really fast with a lot of momentum into the positivity rather. But if it doesn't happen, it's not something that you need to judge yourself for, because your ego and your psychology are still adjusting to a worldview and a paradigm in which certain things are in certain ways. In other words, don't beat yourself up. So from a law of attraction standpoint, yeah, like, it's not going to be unhealthy to do that. But if it doesn't happen, there's no reason to beat yourself up. Again, same with weight loss, because a huge part of this, and this is where, again, feel free to correct me or modify your answer if you think I'm off on this. But the whole key of any endeavor where you're improving an aspect of your life, especially an aspect that, on paper is difficult or slow to improve, is not being hard on yourself and being self-aware with the understanding that, listen, this is actually part of the game. It's almost like in a chessboard. You can't knock out the king right away. You've got to move the pawns. You've got to move the rooks. You've got to develop I don't even remember the terminology, but you've got to develop your game in a certain way, and you got to move the pieces in the right way. There's a progression, there's a process before checkmate, before even check. And you've got to give yourself the wherewithal, like the patience, the understanding, the kindness to engage in that way and understand that there are steps to be taken.
So I'm currently writing a book, and I spoke to this concept on the last call with my clients, and I talk about your level of practicality. Everybody has their own level of practicality, and nobody's level is right or wrong. And when I say practical, I don't mean don't push yourself and don't work your butt off. I think that that's important, but for me to tell Andrew the only way possible for you to get any sort of fitness goal that you want, more muscle or whatever, the only way is to do it exactly how I do it. It's not right, because Andrew's level of practicality is different than mine. For starters, I've been doing this for 12 years and I enjoy it. So he hasn't been doing it for 12 years. He hasn't had my experiences. He hasn't been where I've been. He doesn't have my training. So there's no possible way that he will love it exactly how I love it. So it's crazy important to establish what your level of practicality is. For me, it's practical to work out, 4 days a week. Some people, it's practical to work out 6 days a week. Some people only want to do it once a week. Neither one is right or wrong. And you can make it progress with 1 day a week. But the big thing to realize, especially when you're working on consistency and you've been doing things, when you're in sort of that maintenance phase, you've been doing it for, 6-8 months. The big thing to really understand is, okay, you made some progress, especially in that first 30 days, and you started seeing the pounds drop and all that. But are you really being true to your level of practicality? Meaning what I'm seeing in the mirror and what I'm doing on a daily basis, how much training I'm doing and all that. Are you being logical to that amount of practicality? Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It makes perfect sense. And me, I always take things to an extra deeper, almost unnecessarily deeper level. But when you were saying that I don't have your experience, I got in fantastic shape years back. But even that notwithstanding, I still don't think that I got into the shape that you've been in. But also, even if I did do that, there's been a gap of years where I have not been working so intensely. So one thing that I don't understand the way you understand it is certain pain in my body that I might feel through working out, whether it's good pain or bad pain, whether it's a sign that something's wrong or it's just part of the process. And you only get there by putting in the reps, so to speak. You only get there by engaging the experience and finding out for yourself. And again, being patient enough with yourself and consistent enough to log those hours in, to log in those experience points, for lack of a better term, so that you actually know what you're doing and can therefore even enhance the limits of your practicality.
It's correct. You're 1,000% right. And it's not that you were making this point, but I think it's extremely important to make this point since it just popped up. Especially in fitness, the comparison game, it will kill you. Comparison is the thief of joy. And I, early on in my fitness career, I did that. I compared myself to the biggest dude in the gym and all that, which makes zero sense. And it's the same thing of what I just said. Because of what I've done in the past 12 years and my experiences, Andrew should not look like me. He will not look like me. Hormonally, it's different. Hereditary. I mean, there's so many things. Like, if you and I train the same exact way for 6 years straight, we're not going to look the same. I mean, if you know that and you don't do that comparison, you're already setting the future up for such a healthier way to go about it. And I found many people are like, I want to look like Brad Pitt, or I want to look like so-and-so. Makes no sense.
Yeah.
Just work on the best version of you.
I love that. And, just to make it all about me, because that's always fun, right? I pulled an amazing rabbit out of my hat, in that with my book, I managed to write my book and I think do a pretty good job without actually telling my story in the book. But I still did tell my story in my, my Gravity of the Cosmos, my free training on 3 secrets. And one concern that I always had when I was, recording that was like, I hope people don't compare themselves to me, because I talk about this dramatic turnaround in my life that it be like 2 weeks, I was already getting momentum, and within 6 months, my life had this amazing turnaround. And other people, they might get all that in a week, or it might take them a year, or it doesn't matter. But again, they have a different set of experiences, a different set of motivations, a different set of everything. So it's really important, whether you're looking to a personal trainer, an author, your best friend, a mentor, someone down the street, someone you've never met, someone you've known for years, that you don't unfairly compare yourself and only worry about what you're doing.
Correct. Yeah. And I don't think there's anything wrong with, like, if someone says, like, I want to be in a level of shape that Brad Pitt was in. I'm not saying that that's wrong, because using some of the steps that he used to get there, that makes total sense. I'm not saying that you should just be blind to everything around you. Hell, the education that I have is through other people.
Yeah.
We learn from history, but what I'm saying is, don't blindly think that because you did whatever Brad Pitt did, that in 3 months you're going to look like he looked in Fight Club. It's just,
yeah.
And that's no offense to you, but you just have different makeup.
It's like, leverage what you admire about that situation. Correct. For inspiration, for motivation, but don't misuse it or misapply it in a way that holds yourself back, that gets you in a rabbit hole of negativity, doubt, uncertainty, and lack of progress.
Correct. Because you will forever spin your wheels trying to look like Ronnie Coleman or Arnold Schwarzenegger or whatever, because again, we have different makeup. We're made up differently.
Yeah, love it, love it. So one other point that I want to make sure, well, probably one or two, based on your reaction to that video, was there was a point in the show where she like gives him a contract that, by the way, she wrote for him, which I know that really upset you because he didn't work on the contract with her. He didn't work on what he would agree to do. But a piece of that where it's like the big point of contention was that he couldn't do 6 a.m. workouts because of his job. Yeah. And you said, you don't have to fit your life into fitness. You need to fit fitness into your life, meaning all this stuff, working out, law of attraction, make sure or form it or fit it into a way, practicality, that it fits into your life, it fits into your lifestyle, it fits into your personality, it fits into all the aspects of yourself that will leave it room to be a consistent, regular part of your life.
Correct. Yeah. It boils back to the same thing of, what do you enjoy? Because that's what you'll continue. And I always ask the question, if somebody comes to me and is like, what do you think about keto? What do you think about intermittent fasting? What do you think about that? My question is, why are you doing it? Like, what's the purpose behind it? And then, do you think you could do that long term? Like, do you think you could do that long term? If the answer is yes to, I think I could do that long term, I enjoy that, then try it. Rock on. Why not? Things can change also. So when I started out in fitness, I was working out 5-6 days a week because I loved it. I was obsessed with it. I wanted to learn it. I've changed a lot of things in 12 years. My approach to it, like how many days I'm lifting and the style in which I'm lifting. I've tried powerlifting, bodybuilding, all sorts of stuff. And right now I enjoy training 3-4 days a week because I'm focused on my business. I'm focused on happiness. I'm focused on many, many things. So when I look in the mirror, I have that level of practicality of like, all right, you're not training 6 days a week. You're not super, super strict with your nutrition. So you're not going to see that. As long as I have that square in my head, I mean, I can make what I see in the mirror, whatever I want it to be, with just turning up the dial of intensity or being a little more strict, but having it square up here is what matters.
Love it. Love it. So 2 more points. I'm looking at my notes here that I want to make sure to bring up. One piece, again, going back to the show where the guy got some really scary news from his doctor.
The contract.
Oh yeah, the contract.
I'm sorry. That's what we were talking on. That's
no worries, man.
So I'm sorry. Yeah, let me speak to that real quick. So the contract. Cool. The contract. So it's very possible that off camera they spoke about it, but the way it was presented is that she showed up with this contract to him saying this is what it's going to be. And it's a very common thing for a trainer and a client to both establish the goals and the approach and how you're going to do it, what your responsibility as the client and your responsibility as the trainer, what your responsibilities are. It's basically a contract, and it's setting the groundwork and laying it all out so both parties knows what's up. It's a great thing. The big problem is in how she presented it was, here's the contract, sign it. She definitely wanted him to review it, but without his input, you can see his facial expression, his body language, everything about it. He was like, all right, I agree with this, except for this exam workouts. And, you know, for some reason, it seemed like that was the big holdup for her, and that there was no other time in the day that he could do the workout. And I always look at it from a perspective of, all right, well, at least the dude's saying he's going to do the workout. Like, let's make it in the afternoon. Let's give that a shot. And if that fails, then we'll adjust how we need to.
Perfect. Beautiful. And one other piece here that I think was really important was as a part of the show where I think this is where there was either 1 or 2 points near the end where you really just like you lost your stuff and you flipped out.
Yep.
And one was where he received bad news from the doctor, and she was right there. And she kind of like all of a sudden she was using fear as a motivator, to which you did not like. And that was the message I got out of here. Like, in terms of you know, in your opinion, in the context of fitness, fear is not a good motivator. And I'll say this real quick before I turn it over to you. I think fear is a wonderful motivator in the short term.
Correct.
If you're scared and you need, like, fear will get you a week or maybe a month. But from a long-term perspective, it's my opinion, I'm going to bounce this back to you to hear your thoughts, to expound. Fear will not be the right way, because you're always focused on the negative. It's a very self-defeating emotion that's going to, you're going to inadvertently put yourself down the wrong path. But feel free to expound on that, on what your feelings are.
Without a doubt. So I'm also a nurse, and I used to work in the ICU, and 80% of the patients I saw had 1 to 2 comorbidities that was all self-induced, meaning it could have been changed with, you know, mental health, nutrition, training, and recovery. Like, it could have been reversed for them. Maybe they don't realize it, but there's no way that every one of those patients did not realize that, or ever didn't have a scare. And I've met people, I'm related to people that have had medical emergencies, and years later, they're still doing the same exact things that led to that emergency in the first place. So you're 100% right. Fear can be great in the short term, but we as humans tend to forget what those consequences are. So if it's not long lasting, you're not going to stick to it.
Yeah.
But
and
go ahead.
Well, I was going to say, like, this is something I even write about in my book, where the way I describe the ego, it's like your ego, just the way your ego doesn't care about your fitness or your comfort, it also doesn't even care about like what's going on with your health. All it knows is that in this moment right now, you're alive. Meaning whatever unhealthy habits you're doing, you're alive, and a switch like that is going to trigger. And again, I'm not sure, you know, your mindset or your approach or your feeling on that, but for me, my explanation, the way my mind explains why people will get a real bad scare and still do it, is because there's something inside their mind that says, well, you're still alive. Let's not risk what would happen if you change that behavior.
Exactly. And, you know, in the show, it was very obvious that he understood what that lab work meant. When that medical professional was telling him, like, all right, you're pre-diabetic, like you're at risk for heart disease, like all of those things, he didn't have an issue understanding what she was saying. But Fallon, for some reason, reinforced that as fear, which it just doesn't make any sense. If he already understands that, then why wouldn't you take a different approach of being like, you know? And I think she actually did ask the question, so hats off to her. She said, like, how does that make you feel? Great question. But when you further dig into the thing that obviously is not changing it, I mean, it hasn't changed it up until this point, why would you further dig into it? And then at the same time, like, I could see her intentions too, because like when she started crying because she was scared for him, then he had to comfort her. And it's just in that moment, like, that's not you're not, you are supposed to be the supporter, not you are supposed to be supported. So anyway, I'm off on a tangent.
Yeah, well, you're talking about, like, you know, as a personal trainer, you have to support the client, not the other way around. And from a self-management standpoint, if people aren't engaging a process where they're basically managing themselves, again, it comes back to kindness and patience of, like, you know, you need to almost be there from that standpoint. If it's not a personal trainer situation, if you haven't hired Matt, even though I highly recommend it, if it's just you, law of attraction, you've got to manage yourself and be patient with yourself and just be there for yourself and understand, listen, you're not going to be perfect and you don't have to be, but make sure that you're almost being a responsible party to yourself and looking after yourself in a healthy, really just a positive and responsible way. It's the best way I can put it.
That you're spot on with that, because speaking again, I'm going to keep making the fitness claim because I think that's very contextual, but you know when you're putting effort in and when you're not. You can lie to anyone. You can lie to me. You can pull the wool over my eyes as a client, but you ultimately know. you know, and I think when you can make that separation and understand, like, all right, the more I lie to myself, I mean, I'm just going to stay in the same spot. So, you know, what you're saying right there, as far as self-judgment and all that. Yeah, I agree. Yep.
Yeah, love it. Love it. Cool. Well, the final point here, and this is how you kind of like closed out your reaction video with Holden, where you basically use the words, it's all about your approach. That's like all this, like this conversation that we have, which I hope really adds insight to people who watch it, whether they end up seeing it on my channel or you end up repurposing it in some way on your channel or whatever. It really comes down to what is the approach that you are taking. That's what I really got from your final comment and really from this conversation. Is that a fair way to put it?
1,000%. Absolutely. Yep.
Love it.
Yep.
Love it. Awesome. Well, I mean, we've had ourselves quite a conversation here. We've gone down some certain roads, and I think we've covered a lot of points. I'm wondering, Matt, just to put it out there to make sure I'm a responsible host, is there anything that I didn't touch on that you think is really important to bring up in the context of what we're speaking about?
The original video was 48 minutes, and I had to cut it down to, I think it was 10 or 15 minutes. So
It was 19. I covered, it was 19 and change.
It was originally 48 minutes that I turned that 48-minute version into a podcast that I'm going to release at some point. So I could talk about it for hours. So, I mean, there's so much in there that I think that can be spoken to, but I think we hit a bunch of high points for sure.
Beautiful. Well, you know, quick reaffirmation, you know, props to Fallon, where again, unfairly, she was she was at the whim of the producers or the mercy of the producers. So who knows all the stuff she did right. But of course, also thank you inadvertently, because she did bring up things that you had a critique, which inspired this conversation, which I so selfishly leveraged for my audience. So I'm cool about that. Also, just, you know, make sure to be responsible for anyone that is interested in fitness. You've got a 30-day full group body challenge. Let me give the 40 just to tell me about like what's involved with that, because it's not something where you have to be in person. It's something where you've got an app, but I'll leave it to you.
Yeah, it's something that I've developed over a long time now. And ultimately, I wanted to combine an online group setting that focuses on mental fitness and behavior change over the course of 30 days. And that's what I've developed. I now have clients that have gone from the 30-day all the way up into the 44-week challenge. So ultimately it can keep going. But the 30-day challenge is just the intention to start out slow and work yourself up to 30 days of behavior change. So inside my app, you have all the workouts, you have everything that you need to do on a daily basis. And weekly we meet for group Zoom calls to focus on things that you need to shift, and specifically for you, not a blanket approach. And it's been the most rewarding approach that I've taken in my business. And it's been extremely rewarding. I've met many, many people. I have people in different time zones, from UK to Austria to Sweden, and people in Chicago. I mean, they're just everywhere. And it's so cool because now it's taken a life of its own. And like, sure, I'm cool, but the group aspect is what makes this thing really click and really shine. That when I see them collaborating inside the app and talking to one another and sharing pictures and all that, knowing that they're all going through the same challenge and then speaking to each other every single week, there's a level of accountability that has sort of come not just from me as the trainer, but them as a group. So it's just been fantastic.
Awesome. Awesome. And, you know, just to give people a quick little backstage pass, again, I know you, not even as a personal trainer, but just as a human being.
Correct.
I can personally vouch for, you know, I don't know what results you're going to get based on yourself in this, but I know that you're going to be in very good hands, anyone that does this, because if anyone understood the level of care that Matt has and puts into this behind the scenes, that you don't even realize in the Zoom calls, even when you're interacting with him, you would understand that there's such a level of intensity and love and insight and wisdom and support that's been built into this. So anyone that is mildly curious, I'm going to leave a link to where you can learn more about that in the description of this YouTube channel. Matt, any other go away words you want to leave us with before we close things out here?
No, I appreciate the plug. I appreciate it. That wasn't necessary at all. I will say that Jenna's been reading the book, and she's loving it. The Last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need to read.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, and she's loving it. And Jenna doesn't she doesn't take too much to, I think, rigid structure, and I take that back. She loves rigid structure and being organized, but basically I'm saying for her to be so into this book, and she's been talking to me so much about it, I am pleasantly surprised that she's so attracted to it, because a lot of the concepts in your book, you know, I've read it as well, and a lot of the concepts in your book are things that I've used in my life too. Maybe it wasn't because I actually read it, but they were things that I had stumbled upon, and then I might have improved some of the aspects of it. So it speaks volumes that Jenna's loving it so much. And give the book a read. I'm serious. I don't read too many books. I cherish the ones that I do, and it's a fantastic book. It really is.
Well, I appreciate that plug, my friend. And more importantly, I appreciate you. I think this is what I hoped it would be. And it's a conversation with the parallels of how fitness and law of attraction or any aspect of self-improvement can really come into play when you are responsible for yourself and you're caring of yourself in a way that you're really going to be looking out for what you need to do. Or you find a really awesome personal trainer, Matt Lane Fitness, or anything like that. But thank you so much for coming on today and sharing your insight and wisdom. Because people don't know you're a very busy guy, but you took time out to do this, and my audience is all the better for it. So I appreciate you, sir.
No, I'm grateful to speak with you and be able to delve into this, and it means a lot, man. It means a whole lot.